So imagine this. You are a young dreamer living in rural China. You dream of creating a better life for yourself and your family. You have the grit, the determination, and the right ideas, but you lack the financing for it. And so you realize that for yourself and many others like you, the saying that money makes money is unfortunately true. And so you try to get a loan, but you don't even have a bank account, let alone a credit rating. And just like that, a better life seems more out of reach than ever before. This is exactly who FinVolution targeted when they started in 2007. And now, having empowered tens of millions of people in China, they are looking to make ripples and waves in the world. And they want to start with Southeast Asia. Good morning, panelists. We are Team SMU. I'm Megan, and I'm here with Ronnie, Crystal, and Chu Han, and we are here to present on FinVolution, Generating New Waves. So first, we want to briefly introduce FinVolution's key services. Firstly, under their fintech services, they primarily handle money lending via either peer-to-peer or by acting as an intermediary between banks and individual borrowers. Next, they have their fintech empowerment, which focuses on providing technologies and solutions to banks. However, their money lending service is still their biggest market and is also what sets the foundation for their fintech empowerment. And therefore, the team has decided to focus primarily on the money lending service first, before building on top of it with the fintech empowerment after. So FinVolution has managed to achieve immense success in China due to, firstly, their three key internal strengths. So they have a deep understanding of the local market. They also have immense consumer data collected over the years. And finally, with their strong, innovative tech capabilities, they've been able to stay ahead of their competitors. Additionally, yet two external factors that help drive their success further. Firstly, they had a favorable regulatory environment with government support. Additionally, with high smartphone penetration in China, FinVolution was also able to reach out to a wide range of individuals. Now, FinVolution wishes to successfully expand overseas and have decided that their first step would be Southeast Asia. So to guarantee our success, we need to answer three key questions. Firstly, which business models should we adopt in these new markets? Secondly, in what order should we bring in the different business models? And finally, which markets do we enter? So to answer our first question, we see that FinVolution's focus for their primary money lending service has always been on countries with a lack of financial infrastructures, like a robust credit registry, and also on countries with a lack of financial inclusivity and with a higher unbanked population. So this group is perfect for their products and is who their products can best serve. And therefore, Southeast Asia is the ideal market for them to adopt their existing business models in. Next, we look at the order that we should adopt our business model in. So their money lending service operates within an ecosystem made up of lenders, borrowers, and the middleman, FinVolution. So in order for FinVolution to achieve success in new markets, we need both lenders and borrowers to be on board. But there are challenges to achieving this. So like other ecosystems that benefit from the network effect, borrowers are attracted by the lenders. Lenders, on the other hand, are made up of individual lenders and banks who are attracted by borrowers. What these lenders value most is getting returns and being paid back. However, we believe that as we are not yet established in the Southeast Asian market, banks have a lack of trust in our ability to succeed and therefore are unlikely to take up the risk of partnering with us. Instead, FinVolution should adopt the same approach that they did in China and begin by targeting informal lenders like individuals and investors. Therefore, for FinVolution's first Southeast Asian market, we will enter with our peer-to-peer lending service, followed by an intermediary service, and finally, with enough data collected, we can also introduce our fintech empowerment. So now that we've established which business models to bring over, as well as the order, we want to look at which markets to enter first. So we assessed 6 markets in Southeast Asia: Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, Singapore, Thailand, and Malaysia, and used 5 criteria. So in this slide, we cover the first 3 criteria, which are the population with internet to determine the servable market, the availability of alternative loans like credit cards that will reduce the need for our products, and finally, the receptiveness to fintech in the country. In the next slide, we look at the remaining 2 criteria, the level of restrictive regulation that will prevent us from building the necessary capabilities, and the level of competition. So based on our analysis, we assign each country a score, with the higher number indicating better prospects, and totaled the score for the 5 criteria. The result of our analysis showed that Indonesia is indeed the best choice for Finvolution, and therefore, our key question is, how can we succeed in the peer-to-peer lending sector in Indonesia?
With this vision to revolutionize the traditional banking scene in Indonesia, how exactly can we create the ripples to push this vision forward? Upon further research, the team realizes that currently, to execute its Indonesia expansion plans, Finvolution has set up a joint venture with a local company to gain local knowledge. However, for Finvolution to truly succeed in the peer-to-peer lending space in Indonesia, this joint venture will only just set the ground for us to excel. So what exactly must Finvolution do next? If we look at the current peer-to-peer lending competitive landscape, we see that it is relatively consolidated in Indonesia, with the top 5 to 10 competitors owning 70% of the existing market share. However, after further analysis, the team realized that there is a huge untapped space due to approximately 50% of Indonesians being underbanked and unbanked. As internet penetration increases, the demand for peer-to-peer lending services would steadily increase as well. When we dive deeper and look into the potential new customers of this peer-to-peer lending market, we see that the small-medium enterprises in Indonesia are the largest growing segment. In Indonesia, we want to emphasize that the largest network of small-medium enterprises lies in the warung network. So what exactly is a warung? Warungs are uniquely Indonesian, and they are a network of independent mom-and-pop stores that exist literally in every single village, town, and city in Indonesia. They are the cornerstone of Indonesia's retail, with around 4 million warung stores across Indonesia, and these stores are where daily grocery shopping is done by households at least once every week. When we further dive deeper into this warung network, we see that there are 2 different kinds of warungs. Number 1, the big warungs, which are located at larger town and city centers. And number 2, the smaller warungs, which are entrenched into local villages. The relationship between these 2 groups of warungs is that for the big warungs, having access to large FMCG wholesalers will serve as distributors to the smaller warungs. However, unlike the big warungs, which are usually bigger business owners with stable income and savings, the small warungs are ran by families which are of lower income and unbanked. Recently, as e-commerce becomes more prevalent in Indonesia, more people turn to these online marketplaces due to the wider variety of product lines and items. This exactly serves as a threat to our small warungs in Indonesia. And to combat this, small warungs need to think of ways to stock up more inventory across product lines so that they can better cater to the changing tastes and preferences of their communities. However, they have little savings available to expand their product line offerings. We see that there is a large influx of small warung owners looking to borrow money. However, as they lack credit histories, they are not able to obtain a loan from a bank. Whereas on the other hand, we have the large warungs with additional income as they are typically larger businesses in the city and town center. Here, the key relationship that bridges these 2 stakeholders is the fact that the large warungs are dependent on the financial stability of the small warungs. If the small warungs face a decline in their revenue, the large warungs will essentially face a decline in the demand of their goods as they are the distributors. Hence, having said all this, what is most important here is that the warung network serves as a huge opportunity for Finvolution to capitalize on to win in Indonesia. Not only is there a huge number of warung stores all over the country, there is also this exact large unserved need that we can bridge with the help of our technology. With our advanced technology stack, we are able to create comprehensive risk models. And through tapping on this exact key strength that we have, we believe that we will be able to create a trustworthy system to collect additional funds that exist in this warung network and lend it out to those who need it the most but cannot get them through traditional means. Therefore, introducing our strategy, creating a ripple. Through this strategy, big warungs with additional income can lend their money to our platform, where we then pool all the funds together and utilize these funds to provide financing to the small warungs who need these funds to purchase a greater variety of inventory. Overall, this will help to ensure the sustainability of the warung network in Indonesia. The value that Finvolution brings to the table here is the fact that we have a comprehensive risk assessment technology that is able to accurately assess the risk of loan defaults. Especially in Indonesia, where mobile and internet penetration is prevalent, our risk assessment technology is able to accurately analyze these large amounts of unstructured data to provide a comprehensive assessment of small warongs who are looking for loans. With our strengths in technology and us being the middleman in this ecosystem, it will provide big warongs with the security that the money that they lend out have a low default risk, hence providing them with a compelling reason to loan out their additional funds to ensure the business sustainability of the small warongs, who at the end of the day are essentially their customers. Furthermore, looking to the benefits of the different stakeholders in the warong network, so there should be a correction in this slide. The words borrower and lender should be switched. But overall, to sum it all up, the small warongs would be the borrowers, and they will be able to get the funds that they need to stock up on additional inventory. Secondly, the big warongs will be the lenders in our strategy, where they will pull in their additional income onto our platform fund. Hence, not only do they ensure the sustainability of the smaller warongs, they are also able to reap benefits from the interest rates of our loans.
So now that we have this grand strategy to utilize the warong network, how exactly do we reach out to onboard them? Well, the answers just go back to the warong. There are 4 million warongs across Indonesia, and the small warongs are typically located at the rural areas, making it operationally challenging and costly for Finvolution. However, the big warongs are normally located in towns, which is easier for us to approach them, and they already have a huge network of small warongs. If we just leverage on them to bring small warongs on board, that will be much faster and cost-effective. Besides, the small warongs are often hesitant to adopt P2P lending because they don't understand how P2P lending works, and there is a general lack of trust in such services. As a result, a widespread marketing campaign to boost brand awareness is not going to work. Instead, we need to leverage human connection. Let the local people whom they know to talk to them and benefit from word-of-mouth marketing. Therefore, when entering the Indonesian market, the first step Finvolution should take is to onboard the big warongs into our platform, and then get these big warongs to reach out to the small warongs as borrowers. The big warongs typically meet the small warongs weekly for restocking, which is a great avenue for them to talk to small warongs, making them understand how P2P works and convince them that our P2B services can help to improve their financial constraints, especially with the rise of e-commerce. Now, it is in the best interest of the warongs to help getting small warongs on board, as the financial success and the sustainability of the small warongs are also the key contributing factors to their own survival. In conclusion, leveraging the warong community as a market entry strategy presents us with 2 key benefits. Firstly, a huge customer base comprising both the borrowers and the lenders. Apart from that, we recognize the huge amount of individual borrowers in Indonesia, and we believe that the warong community provides a good starting point for our venture into this space. The warongs already have a huge outreach of consumers, as they occupy 70% of retail transactions in Indonesia. More importantly, warongs are currently serving the consumers that we are targeting, the underbanked who have serious needs for loans but can't borrow from the banks. By tapping on warongs now and creating relationships, we are mapping a future path for us to easily go into consumer loans, achieving even greater customer acquisition in the future. And secondly, the deeply penetrated warong community allows Finvolution to quickly localize into Indonesian market. As the big warongs know the business operations of the small warong best, they can help us to provide local insights to better design localized loan products.
Now, we don't want to stop in Indonesia. So now that we've entered and made ripples in Indonesia, the next step is for us to expand, succeed, and make waves in the rest of Southeast Asia. So having also assessed the changing regulatory landscape in the region, we see that one key trend is that many countries are developing nesting grounds for fintech growth where regulations are relaxed. This is yet another compelling reason to strike while the iron is hot and enter Southeast Asia. So to do so, we need to answer 2 questions: where to enter and how to enter. So for where to enter, our previous evaluation determines that Philippines and Vietnam with the highest scores would be the next markets to enter. For how to enter, we see that there are 2 main challenges we will face. So the first challenge is that there is a high level of complexity within Southeast Asia. With different languages, values, and competitive landscapes, there is a serious need for us to localize ourselves in order to make the right steps. Our second challenge lies in the need for speed in these markets. Entering the new market early and achieving even one more loan than our competitors will mean that our credit risk assessment becomes more robust, therefore creating greater lock-in for our customers. Naturally, this is also valid for our competitors, and so we face the challenge of having to grow and acquire customers faster than them. And so, how can we overcome these two challenges? Firstly, we can look into entering a joint venture with a firm that has a deep understanding of the local markets. So by leveraging their expertise, we'll be able to ensure that the strategies are best suited to this market. To resolve the second challenge, partnering with a bank would be ideal as we can cut down on the time needed to acquire many individual lenders and can focus on acquiring borrowers instead, therefore helping us build out our ecosystem quicker than our competitors. So there are several reasons why the team believes that a JV will be possible in these new markets now when it wasn't in Indonesia before. So by this point, we would have established ourselves in the Indonesian market, and this is a crucial aspect that banks will consider when deciding if they should do a JV with us. If we look at case studies of major companies in Southeast Asia like Gojek, they were able to enter other regional markets and form JVs with local companies after achieving massive success in Indonesia. So with a foothold in Indonesia, our reputation will be better known within the region. And with us, banks will also be able to leverage our credit risk assessment technology to reach segments like those with limited credit history, therefore opening up a whole new market to them.
Next, let me show you how the strategies can be implemented. For creating a ripple, we begin with the setup of the local Indonesian team, followed by a year of identifying warungs and reaching out to them. To ensure that this outreach is successful, we will also use fleet ads and marketing brochures. While this is going on, we will also set up our website and app and update the backend. Moving on to generating waves in the rest of Southeast Asia, we can begin in 2022 with the Philippines by identifying local banks that can be suitable JV partners with the criteria that we've laid out earlier. After which, we can form our joint ventures and roll out operations all across the country. Once these operations are stable, the next step would be to move on to Vietnam in 2024 with a similar process. With this implementation, the key cost drivers of this strategy are number 1, the staff wages, number 2, marketing expenses, and number 3, tech expenses. The largest cost driver comes from the wages of the additional 100 employees needed in each country. In Indonesia, with our strategy of leveraging warungs, customer acquisition cost is kept low, ensuring that our market entry is feasible. Our 5-year total cost hence amounts to 80 million USD, which represents just 15% of our current annual expenses, making our strategies very feasible. For our strategies to succeed, we also need to address the key risk involved in the strategies. In creating a ripple, warung may collude with unfavorable customers by vouching for those whom they know will intentionally default on their loans. To mitigate this, we can impose penalties to businesses associated with the original warung in the form of additional interest for loans. Such social pressure is a very effective means in Indonesia for mitigation. In conclusion, our journey to Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, and to the rest of Southeast Asia is not merely one where Finvolution only grows their own revenues and profits. It is a story of enablement for the masses. Like the young dreamer we introduced at the start, our strategies will now enable other young dreamers like her all over Southeast Asia to access the financing that they need to make their dreams come true. This ultimately is a first step for Finvolution in creating ripples and waves all around the world. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. It's now time for the Q&A. The 15 minutes countdown start now. Let's hear the first question.
I'll start. So in your first couple of slides, you said you did market research against 6 or 7 different markets. Can you give a bit more details in terms of the sources that you used, and besides that table you use, is anything else you could provide in terms of giving us details? Because market research is traditionally quite tricky. If you can just give more details on that.
All right, so in our market research, we were basically trying to figure out market size, the regulations and level of competitiveness. So how we did it was we looked at the population with internet as well as the access to alternatives to see whether or not there are any any factors that will reduce the need or reduce the ability to use our services. And so for these two, we actually ranked them from 1 to 6 in terms of which has the highest number. So let's say for population with internet, the country with the largest population would be ranked first, and therefore we will assign it a higher score of 6. And so Vietnam with 85 million afterwards would be ranked a score of 5. So for the second criteria, such as access to alternatives, we actually looked at the percentage of population with access to credit cards. And so we saw that as an alternative to loans. And we used the same form of measurement where we assigned a higher number to those with a lower access to credit cards. So then for things like receptiveness to fintech and the remaining 2 factors, we actually assigned them with qualitative. We actually use qualitative research to kind of assign a score of low, medium to high for this. And so, for example, the level of regulation, if it has a high level of regulation, we assigned it a point of 1 because the lower means it's worse and the higher means better. And so we did that for this. We did that also for the other criteria and ended up with the total score.
So can you talk a bit more details in terms of the sources that you use to get, in particular, not the alternatives, so the level of regulation, what type of sources do you use?
Sure. So for this, what we used a couple of reports. So KPMG and PwC both have their own respective reports on the fintech scene in Southeast Asia. So we use these reports to basically give us a gauge of the different levels of these qualitative indicators.
Hi, a few supplementary questions on this. So you've looked at level of population and assigned a higher score to number of people with say smartphone access, etc. But shouldn't you also look at when you look at market size, at the dollar amounts of the trade volumes, etc. So again, you can have lots of people doing small transactions and small trades, but what may be more valuable is if you're able to capture larger transactions and larger trade volumes, which arguably a more slightly more developed market like Thailand or Malaysia may provide. Shouldn't you also factor that into the analysis? And secondly, second part, so you said that for alternatives, you looked at credit card percentage. Now, if you look at the exhibits, and if you say compare percentage of people with bank accounts and percentage of people with credit cards, so in some countries it's quite linear. So you can see, for example, in Vietnam, both are in the 20s and 30s. So arguably, as both will grow in tandem. But for a place like Singapore, you can see that it has high penetration of bank accounts, but very low penetration of credit cards, among the lowest, only about 18%. So wouldn't it suggest, for example, that people are more wary of credit for some reason? If that's the case, then have you analyzed why that's so and why you believe that with this medium now that will change the mindset and attitudes?
So thank you for your question. So let me take the first part. So the first part is on how we measure the market size, right? So when you look at the market size, I think the main thing that we wanted to consider was what was in strategic alignment with the company. So what they're really focusing at is at P2P. I think what they're really going for is volume here. And this is in line with what they have done, originally in China, and it's what they have articulated with what they want to do as well. And I think that the benefit here, as they've, when they talk about first entering Indonesia, is that I think they're really targeting the mass population, right? The whole unbanked. So while the transaction size may be smaller, I think that they're really going for volume over here. So this is really in line with what they want to do, and therefore our metrics reflect that in terms of the population and as well as the internet penetration rate. So the next part on the credit, so we looked at bank accounts and we looked at credit card. We realized that for a lot of these Southeast Asian markets, what has happened is that although these people have bank accounts, they are underbanked, right? So they do not take on additional credit. So while they have bank accounts, these accounts sit dormant. They do not interact with the banks often. They do not take on credit. So in essence, we think that this is actually the target customers for us, where they are the underbanked here.
So have you validated that it's not because the people are wary of taking credit and debt, because that is another possible driver as well for the low credit card penetration rate, not just the fact that they're not able to get the credit. So which of the two? So you need to identify and validate that it's not the second.
Yes. So our team has done an analysis, and we know that while a lot of the people in Southeast Asia, especially the traditional ones, they are quite wary of taking on debt. We see that over time, as people become more knowledgeable, they see their friends, families start to do it, especially the younger folks. They become more financially savvy, and they recognize the need to do this. So I think as we position ourselves here, we're really entering a market where there's a growing space for us to enter, and a huge growing market there as well. So I think it's perfectly in alignment with what we're trying to do here.
Actually, I want to move on to a slightly different question. Just in terms of the implementation plan, just go to that detail, please. To that slide, sorry, the implementation plan. So in this one, the question is more, revolves around more details. So specifically things like, there's a Gantt chart, but I don't understand what's the costs that you're expecting to generate. And what I mean by that, for example, is you estimate 100 FTEs is required for Indonesia. Let's say, I don't know how fast they can onboard, but I don't know how many warungs you can sign up with 100 FTEs. And by the time that you sign them up, does that actually meet that time? There's a bit missing in terms of infrastructure costs. I mean, the salary cost is one thing, but there's no details on that. Can you provide those details verbally, or if there's another slide?
Yes, I can provide those details verbally. So thank you for your question. So I think first, let me cover what the cost, what are different cost drivers over here. So first number one would be wages. So as I previously mentioned, 100 FTEs for every country. Next,
so how much does that translate to in terms? I guess you can, to say that there's wages, you need to get into the details of the actual dollar amounts.
That's right. So the 5-year total cost for our whole plan here will be $32 million USD for the wages in total. The next one would be marketing. Total will be $24 million. And next one will be the other expenses in operating this will be an additional $24 million as well. So that brings it up to a total of $80 million, which represents only a fraction of our annual revenues and annual expenses. And now let me address the second part.
Just before we get to that, so 32 million on salary, 24 million on, what was it, the second one, sorry?
Marketing expenses.
And what's the other 24 million?
And the other 24 million is the other administrative expenses in running these strategies.
Okay, and then you said that it's a fraction of your profit. What is the expected profit that revenue you're getting?
So expected revenue. To be frank, we have not gotten into the exact numbers yet, but we believe that our strategies will be cost effective, right? Because of the low customer acquisition costs we have.
You're going to have to give a bit more details. If you say that your cost is a fraction of your revenue, you need to be a bit more detailed, even if it's a ballpark.
Sure. All right. So let me give some detail. So the total cost is $80 million. So this represents 15% of our current annual expenses and 10% of our total annual revenues, our current annual revenues.
And how exactly did you come up with that estimate of your revenues?
Yeah, so these revenues are already published. So we are taking status quo revenue and we basically do a forecast for the next few years. So these revenues are based on their global revenues.
Okay, so you're going to use their existing businesses to kind of subsidize this one, you mean? But what about your expected revenue from this entry and the standalone? So the point is to see if this is going to be viable on its own merits. Yes. So I think that when we take a look at the unit economics of this, we see that for every transaction we have, we will have a certain margin to it, and we believe that with our strategy and the effort we put in, it will give us a good return on it. In essence, this will not be a loss-making strategy. This market entry will not be subsidized by the current operations. Rather, we're just comparing what the total cost is for the strategies against our status quo.
Sure. So when you talked about,
the question is to be able to validate or demonstrate that you believe that it will not be loss-making and will provide a good return. But how do you demonstrate that? Yes, definitely. So just for example, as we presented in our strategy, in Indonesia, our strategy of leveraging the warung networks, right, provides us with a way to enter the market where customer acquisition cost is kept relatively low, right, compared to our existing markets. And this ensures financial feasibility.
Do you have an estimate for your costs per acquisition per customer?
So we do not have the exact numbers on hand, but I think we're talking about this in relative terms to our current performance.
Okay. So you talked about detail. You talked about creating a good return. Have you defined what a good return means in terms of actual numbers?
So I think when we talk about good return, I think at the end of the day, right, it is for this $80 million, what is the kind of outreach that we want to have, right? And I think at the end of the day, we basically, at the end of 5 years, we have forecasted there's potential for us to reach 20% of the total warungs in Indonesia. And I think this represents a good amount and a good target that we hope to achieve.
It's a question about the warungs, because it sounds like you're talking a little bit about the value of your risk identification calculation. 2 questions. One, if I'm a warung, why do I use you instead of lending directly to the partners I've been doing business with for years? And number 2, how are you planning to get the data for whatever this risk analysis is when the vast majority of small warungs I've seen involve transactions that are documented on paper?
Yeah, so thank you for your question. I can take the first question. Yeah, so with regards to why these small warungs wouldn't want to, let's say, borrow this fund from the current, let's say, business partners, we see that currently there's no proper mechanism for this to even take place in the first place. Yeah, so currently, even though the larger warungs have the amount have funds to provide, there is no proper mechanism that enables them to accurately lend out the funds to the people who need it the most, and they also face the risk of the loan default, and hence large warungs are not extremely willing to actually provide their funds out because there is no proper mechanism in place that facilitates this transaction. And what we are really doing here with our strategy is to provide this technology capabilities. They'll be able to assess the risk of loan defaulting, and through this technology and our platform, we'll be able to provide this benefit to the bigger warungs to have trust in actually loaning out these funds to the small warungs, which is currently not even in place in Indonesia.
Yeah,
and the data.
For the second question, I'll take that. So we believe that our strength lies in our ability to analyze unstructured data online, because there's a very, very high internet usage and penetration there in Indonesia. So that is how we are going to measure the credit risk. And secondly, and when we establish the relationship already, we are going to have the sales records from both the big warungs and small warungs, because they lend the money from us, and this is also how we are able to perform our risk analysis.
Yeah, just to add on to that, in terms of data collection, we see that there's huge potential for us to also partner with other e-commerce platforms as well as mobile wallets, and through there we are able to collect large amounts of data that can value add in terms of our technology capabilities to actually come up with risk assessment for all these small warungs.
So you mentioned that the big warungs are currently wary of taking the default risk, but ultimately, would that change in your model?
Yeah, so thank you for your question. So we believe that
thank
with
you,
our...
or I'm sorry, I have to stop you here because time is up. Thank you very much for the excellent presentation and the Q&A session. The judge will now stay in the room to deliberate. Dear SMU team, we will put you to the waiting room and bring you back for the feedback session in about 8 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.